Ladies and gentlemen, part 3 will now begin, so please put your hands together and welcome back to the stage, Gareth Icke!
Take it back. Every single word you said in fact, it's only worth as much as how you act. All those words be substance that you lack. Because I want to, I'm fighting on because I ought to. I'm standing up because I want to. I'm fighting on because I ought to. Love without meaning. Love without meaning. Love without meaning. Oh no, it's love without meaning. Once I thought and wrote it down. Took me several years to pour it out, not to tear it up to find my soul. Pull the cover tape across my mouth. Cause I want to, I'm fighting on because I ought to. I'm standing on because I want to. I'm fighting on because I ought to. It's love without meaning. Love without meaning. It's love without meaning. Oh no, it's love without meaning. Don't you think you've heard enough? Don't you think you've heard enough, love? And don't you think you've heard enough in love? And don't you think you've heard enough in love, in love, in love? Because I want to, I'm fighting on because I ought to. I'm standing on because I want to. I'm fighting on because I ought to. It's love without meaning. Whoa! It's love without meaning. It's love without meaning. Oh no, it's love without meaning.
Hey, fantastic. Oh, my screen's coming back. Passing before my eyes. What I'm going to do now is bring this all down into everyday life, because now we're coming to that part which is where we interact with this thing on a daily basis. And is that changing? That's not changing on me thing. The reason for that? Oh, my thing's not changing. Can I have a technical man? It's changing on here. I have a great thing with I have a great thing with technology. I love technology. I got a friend. He rang me. He said he's found a way of he's going to fly to the sun. And I said, what are you doing? You can't fly to the sun because your spaceship will melt. He says, no. I said, I found a way out of that. He says, I'm going at night. Can I Can I have a technical man come and talk to me, because this is not technically moving on? Thank you. Thanks for dressing up for us. That's very kind of you. Hey, actually, this will take me, because we're chasing this non-existent time. I'll just take this opportunity to say thank you to the very tiny number of people who've actually made this possible. Sean, who's produced it, Linda, my rock all these years, who has looked after all the essential elements of it. Jamie and his Open Vision Productions, who's been massively helpful. Shall I try it? No, it's not working. Is there something wrong with that? Is there something wrong with my clicker? It has been said there's something wrong with my clicker, I tell you. And Simon is pressing all the buttons out the back, and it's been amazing. We decided to come here about last February, and crikey, it seemed an amazing project then, but it's kind of happened. Can I get you a cup of tea? Hey! Round of applause. Oh, sorry, it's just come back. No, I just recap before we get on. The hijack, the construct, which comes down, this is where we're coming now into this part of it, as it operates within human society, and how all these different areas, here we go, politics, banking, secret societies, big pharma, pharmaceuticals, all actually being controlled or focusing on that central force and imprisoning us, enslaving us mentally, emotionally in this tiny frequency band. And that's the thing. They have to get us to believe we have no power. Now, this is an interesting area, because this is a certain, what you might call, timeline or sequence line. And if you're outside of that sequence line, you can see further down it. You can see things coming. And also, if you have a projected agenda and you can access these secret societies that know the projected agenda, then you can write prophetic novels about the future that turn out, with hindsight, to be incredibly accurate, because they're not novels. You knew what the plan was. And like I said ages ago today, if you know the plan and nothing intervenes to stop the plan, you can predict the future. And so they can if you lock into this timeline, this sequence line, through inner secret societies, you know what's coming. And one of those secret societies is the Fabian Society, which has based in London, of course, and it has the logo of the wolf in sheep's clothing. I mean, giving it away or what? And interestingly, here go, Tony Blair, he's Fabian. If there's ever a half-truth in a Blair speech, it's a typing error. And people have said to me over the years that give me some books that would tell us what this plan is and where he wants to go. Well, here's two. 1984, George Orwell, that's the police state and all that stuff, perpetual war part of it. Then there's Aldous Huxley, that's 1932, that's 1948. Brave New World, that's all the drug and genetic and mind manipulation part of it. And it just so happens that George Orwell, Eric Blair, went to Eton College, and his tutor in French at one point was Aldous Huxley, who introduced him to the Fabian Society, and that's where they got their information about the projected agenda. And he wrote to almost to his death to trying to expose it. And some people say, and they may well be right, that 1984 is code because 1984 was the 100th anniversary of the Fabian Society. So when you can get access to this projected agenda, you become an instant prophet. And there was a man in 1969 called Dr. Richard Day, and he was a Rockefeller insider. The Rockefeller family, massively part of this. And he worked for Planned Parenthood and all this stuff, which is a Rockefeller organization. And so he had the inside projection. And he, for some bizarre reason, no one seems to know why, he spoke to these pediatricians in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 1969, and he said, put your pens down, don't make any notes, turn off any recording equipment, because I'm going to tell you how the world's going to change. And he proceeded to tell them what was going to happen in the world. And one of the pediatricians did take notes and then typed them up later, and then before he died in 2004, he did some series of interviews saying what Dr. Richard Day had said that night in 1969. Okay, this is what he said, just some of it. And when we look at this, and the one or two things that will follow, anyone that thinks this is not a coordinated agenda for humanity, well, crikey, have a look at it. This is what Dr. Richard Day said, 1969. Technology used for reproduction without sex, families to diminish importance, euthanasia and the demise pill, limiting access to affordable medical care makes eliminating the elderly easier. New difficult to diagnose and untreatable diseases, suppressing cancer cures as a means of population control, education as a tool for accelerating the onset of puberty and evolution, reconstructing education as a tool of indoctrination, more time in schools but pupils wouldn't learn anything, controlling who has access to information, schools as the hub of the community, in other words, taking over from parents in terms of power, changing laws to promote moral and social chaos, the encouragement of drug abuse to create a jungle atmosphere in cities and towns, promote alcohol abuse, restrictions on travel, the need for more jails, no more psychological or physical security, crime used to manage society, curtailment of US industrial preeminence, shifting populations and economies, tearing out the social roots, sports as a tool of social engineering and change, sex and violence inculcated through entertainment, implanted ID cards, microchips, food control, weather control, knowing how people respond, making them do what you want, falsified scientific research, see human-caused global warming, use of terrorism, surveillance, implants, and televisions that watch you, the arrival of the totalitarian global system. Then there was the Frankfurt School that came out of that city in Germany in the 20s and 30s and then went to America. And this was their wish list all that time ago. The creation of racism offences, continual change to create confusion, the teaching of sex to children, huge immigration to destroy national identity, the promotion of excessive drinking, emptying the churches, undermining anything that is socially cohesive, legal system with bias against victims of crime, dependency on the state or state benefits, control or dumbing down of the media, encouraging the breakdown of the family. Now this was a document dated 1979 that came to light in the 1980s called Quiet Weapons for Quiet Wars, and it was a manual from inside government agencies explaining how you collectively social engineer and manipulate the population. And this is some of the things that it said. Media. Keep the adult public attention diverted away from the real social issues and captivated by matters of no real importance. Media? What? Schools. Keep the young public ignorant of real mathematics, real economics, real law, and real history. Entertainment. Keep the public entertainment below a 6th grade level. Work. Keep the public busy, busy, busy with no time to think back on the farm with the other animals. It also said, keep the public ignorant and you have less public organisation. Create preoccupations and you lower defences. Attack the family unit, what a recurring theme that is in all of them, and you control the education of the young. Give out less cash and more credit and you trigger more self-indulgence and social engineering data. Encourage social conformity and you make programming easier. Minimize protests about tax and you maximize the input of personal economic data while minimizing enforcement problems. Stabilize consent and you stabilize control. Tighten control of variables, like individuality I've said here, and you have greater predictability. Maximize control and you minimize resistance to control. Collapse the currency and you destroy faith in a country and each other. All of which are happening. Control of perception, that's what social engineering is. And this again is the paddle stores, because I'm going to put together a series of dots here relating absolutely to the society and the world we're living in today, to show that it's all coordinated and all these things actually are happening at one unit with one force behind them. As they say, the truth will set you free, but first it will piss you off. And that's the part when you start learning what the world's like. So, here's some coordinates. How do they do it? How do they do it? How do a few manipulate billions of people? Well, they create pyramidal structures like Russian dolls, one doll inside a bigger doll inside a bigger doll. They're pyramids inside pyramids inside pyramids. So a bank is a pyramid and it goes into a bigger pyramid until there's the pyramid of the whole banking system, and at the top of that the same people control it. Same with the transnational corporations, etc. And knowledge is held in the hands of the few at the peak of the pyramid, or the inner core of the spider's web, whatever you want to use, and the public are kept in ignorance of that massively in terms of that, the nature of reality itself. These people, presidents, prime ministers, heads of the World Bank and NATO, they're just here today, gone tomorrow, front men and women who are there to impose through legislation the will of the few in the shadows. And like I say, there's this compartmentalized pyramidal structure where in the end, all these different, apparently at this level of society, unconnected areas, in the end, go up to the same network of families that are manipulating them, and thus that is what is behind the institutions of human control and the direction of human society. And we are holding the whole thing together because they are there, and we, silly sods, are holding the whole structure together. And if we walk away, it collapses. Our enslavement is dependent on our cooperation. We withdraw it, house of cards comes down. This is a key area within that construct of organizations that is very influential. The Round Table Secret Society started in Britain. The first head of it was Cecil Rhodes, who was the front man for the House of Rothschild. They created the Royal Institute of International Affairs in London in 1920. Watch the think tanks. That's one of the massive ways that they manipulate. Council on Foreign Relations came in 1921 in America, still massively influential in American foreign policy. Then the United Nations came, and the Bilderberg Group in 1954, a Trilateral Commission in 1973, and the Club of Rome. I'll come to that eventually in this section, because that was specifically created to use the environment as a means to justify human enslavement and changes in human society. And that symbolizes how it all comes together in the end under one force, one roof. And they have what I call the blueprint. It's something I find everywhere. Whether it's national, international, or local, the same blueprint occurs of secret societies and groupings and networks manipulating their sphere of influence in the way that I described earlier. And because of the way it works, it's actually holographic. Every part of this global network is a smaller version of the whole. So when you come down into something like the Isle of Wight, which is like a few miles by a few miles, it is structured to dictate what happens on the Isle of Wight in exactly the same basic form as the greater hologram, which is dictating the direction of world society. And these people who are put forward in our democratic free society for us to choose from to lead us, they're spewed out by these same people, these same forces, these same networks. So whether Romney wins this coming election or Obama wins it, bloody irrelevant. There's areas where Obama will be worse, there's areas where Romney will be worse, but they're controlled by the same force. And these presidents of Democrats and Republicans, just like, Labour and Conservative, these are just labels for masks on the same bloody face. And this is a great symbolic image of the way it works. I'm giving the American example. I could be talking about anywhere. In America, they have the Republican Party. The previous one in power, apparent power, was Bush, George Bush. And behind him, quite acknowledged in the mainstream media, were a network of people known as the neocons or neoconservatives. And these are people like Wolfowitz and Pearl and the Bush family as a whole, and Cheney and Rumsfeld and John Bolton and all these people. And they controlled the Bush administration and the direction that it took. Then along came Obama, and they have, in the Democratic Party, what I call the democons. These are the Clintons, these are Zbigniew Brzezinski. I've put Kissinger in it this time because he's an advisor to Obama, but he's usually over there. George Soros, the financier, he's in there. But the whole point is that at the next stage, after these groupings around that control the parties, the next stage is the same force controlling both of them. So it doesn't matter who gets in, because that's in anyway. This is the way it works. But that's hidden, so we think we're free because we have a vote. This is lovely, the illusion of free choice. Left, right, slaughterhouse, which one do you fancy? And so we're looking at this election now between a mask on the face and another mask on the face. They still think we're different. Well, we're increasingly sussing it, darling. This wonderful front page of Private Eye with Blair and Cameron, world's first face transplant a success. I mean, it just captured the whole bloody thing. I mean, look at it. Obama was going to be different from Bush. He's Bush on bloody steroids. I mean, it's ridiculous. This is a great one, too. Here we go. Oh, I'm going to vote Democrat next time. Oh, I'm going to vote Republican next time. What are we seeing now? Oh, the opinion polls for Labour, they're above Conservative. Oh, we go Conservative or Labour. Doesn't matter! Same forces in control. These people are just pawns. They're moved around the pot by a force that we don't see. So when people say George Bush was big brother, he's not even little sister. Same with Obama. No. They're just here today, gone tomorrow people for a force that people don't know exists. Change the face, change the mask, but the face is still the same. And so we see this going on here. Oh, look, in the news, it says, and we don't see the one force that's manipulating apparently opposing sides in the public arena. As the cards are moved around and we are led to believe they're all random events, like heck they are. And it's all being done, let us not forget, by bloodlines and networks with the deletion of empathy. Thus, anything goes in what they do. Now, what they want is a structure something like this, for a simple reason. If there's a few and you want to control the many, you have to centralize decision-making. Like I said earlier, the more diversity there is, the less power the centre has. And so we've seen this incessant centralisation of power in all areas of our lives, in media ownership, in political parties, in government with the European Union, etc., globalisation. And they want, under a world government, which is they're already talking about, and this World Central Bank they're already talking about, a single currency, electronic. There'd be no cash, for which there are fundamental implications for freedom. You go into a store now, or a garage or whatever, and you hand over electronic money, and they say, sorry, it won't accept your card. You still have the opportunity to pay cash, although it's going out of circulation so fast. Once it's gone out of circulation, and there's only that electronic money, and they want one single electronic currency eventually, then that's deciding if you purchase what you purchase and if you can purchase at all. And of course, dissidents of the system will very quickly go off the Christmas card list of the computer. Under that, they want, or microchip population too, or they want a world army, which would impose the will of the world government. Now, we've got so far in this, I've been using this graphic now since way back in the 1990s, and we've reached the point now where we have a de facto world government. We call it the UN Security Council, or the G8, or whatever the G they're coming up with next, because what those few countries do is they decide that this country's behaviour is not acceptable, and therefore they're going to do something about it. And what do? They send in the de facto world army, called NATO, or the American or British military, to do what the few say must happen in these other countries. And what we're seeing is merely the de facto version of what they want to be enshrined in law. A world government, anyone in the world that doesn't accept the will of the world government, in goes the world army to sort them out. And then they want these regions and stuff under that, the European Union, the American Union, the Pacific Union, African Union, they probably want a few more as well. And coordinates, methods of manipulation, how do they push this centralization and this transformation of the world on? Well, this is something, a term I came up with, again, way back, problem, reaction, solution. It's a powerful way of changing society by manipulating public perception. 9/11, a classic. Ordo ab chaos is a Latin motto for the 33rd degree of Freemasonry. It means order out of chaos. It's problem, reaction, solution. Very simple. You want to change society in a way that you know will not be acceptable to the majority, and you get a lot of resistance. So you don't do it openly. Stage one, you create a problem. It could be a fake terrorist attack, it could be a war, it could be a government crash, an economic crash. You then tell the public through an unquestioning media the version of that problem you want them to believe. It's a lie, but you want them to believe it. So you have the manufactured problem. You now want the public at this point to have the reaction of fear, of outrage, and say, what are they going to do about it? At that point, those who've created the problem and glean that public reaction then openly offer solutions to the problems they have themselves created. And those solutions are changes in society which advance the agenda of global control. I have just described 9/11 to a bloody T. It was an inside job with major government agencies and military input, not just in America either, to create a massive problem to which solutions could be proposed. What have those solutions be? A war on terror, which has dramatically deleted basic freedoms all over the world, not least in this country, America, and elsewhere. And it has justified, not really, but it's been used to justify fantastic increases in surveillance and control, all based on a bloody lie. This is Zbigniew Brzezinski. He's a big, long-time mentor of Barack Obama. He's in the Democons, quite a major one. And when you read his books, he's telling you what's coming, because like George Orwell and Aldous Huxley, he bloody knows, because he has access to it. And he wrote this book, The Grand Chessboard, in 1997, in which he said, moreover, as America becomes an increasingly multicultural society, it may find it more difficult to fashion a consensus on foreign policy issues, except in the circumstance of a truly massive and widely perceived direct external threat. So they create one. Al-Qaeda, and Osama bin Laden, who was actually on the CIA payroll for years with the war against the Russians in Afghanistan. And so we have jet fuel. Yeah, that's a good one. And we have these buildings which were of the same design as the Twin Towers and burned more fiercely and with far more heat and never even threatened to come down. And this is just one area. I mean, the 9/11, not one strand of the official story fits with another. If that's true, that can't be true. If that's true, that can't be true. And here's just a little clip, little video, emphasizing one part of this, and that's the Twin Towers and the official story that they came down because of plain fuel. Let's have a look at this.
What do falling buildings look like? What do demolitions look like? We are seeing typical implosions, characterized by gutting a building's base and then pulling it into itself. Computer-controlled sequencing fires the explosives in a rapid wave. Notice the jets of shooting concrete, the flashes, the pops, the caving of the buildings as they fall into their footprint, the tremendous billowing clouds of dust. Now let's look at the collapse of the Twin Towers. We are seeing explosions rather than implosions, a first in demolition history. A sequenced rumble becomes a roar as debris is thrown outward. The damage is not contained. Even the windows are blown from neighborhood buildings. What kind of energy enabled this? Would fire hurl metal and concrete sideways into the air? Here, a 600,000-pound chunk of steel, twice the weight of a Boeing airliner, was flung 400 feet, wedging itself deep into 3 World Financial Center on Vesey Street. A female photographer taking pictures of Ground Zero wondered why so many steel beams were jutting from neighborhood buildings. What shot pieces of the towers all the way across the street? In April 2006, New Yorkers were distressed to learn that bone fragments, human remains from 9/11, had been found on the roof of the nearby Deutsche Bank building.
How in God's name did those fragments get there?
It surprised me that there was still bone fragments or human remains that had not been discovered.
How is it possible that after 5 years they're finally looking on the rooftops of the Deutsche building? I mean, that's crazy.
And bone fragments less than a centimeter long. How could they be so small? so much to be explained. Why did the South Tower fall first when it was the second tower to be hit? Watch the top of Tower 2 leaning outward, about to topple. Then, suddenly, it disintegrates in midair. What causes this giant slab of steel and concrete to turn into dust before our eyes? Watch both buildings collapsing straight down, directly into the path of most resistance, which is all the floors and all the mass of the building itself.
And yet, despite that, the towers fell. The towers fell in free fall speed. In other words, all the resistance was being removed before that coming down above it hit it. There's some kind of massive energy direction weapon involved in that, I'm sure, because there's so much technology outside the public arena that we don't know about. And thus, again, sense of possibility. If we don't know about it, we're not going to think, well, it could have been used, to do that. So you have to always have this understanding that whatever is the cutting edge of technology in the public arena is nothing like the cutting edge in the secret projects that they're using. And this is, this whole Twin Towers thing. I mentioned earlier about the Twin Towers were kind of symbolic of this Saturn thing with the planet and the crescent. Well, the Twin Towers, obviously there's the Twin Towers again in the Mother Lodge of Freemasonry, and there's the Twin Towers that were said to be outside Solomon's Temple. I think Solomon's Temple was probably Saturn in some way, symbology of something like that rather than a temple. But anyway, this is David Rockefeller, massively involved in this over his 97 bloody years. He's obviously had a lot of bloody life force. And he was the man responsible for building them, or having them built. And this is how far the projection goes. When he had those built, he would have known what the end was going to be, or was planned to be. That's how far it's projected. And here you have the Twin Towers again in Freemasonry, the Republic of Dominica, and this is in Israel, the Twin Towers and the Eye and the Pyramid. And there's the Twin Towers at Mecca, with it next to the Kaaba. Here you have the Twin Towers in Lord of the Rings. And, esoterically, in the tarot card for the tower, it relates to change, eruption, upheaval, exposure, cataclysm, blindsided, sudden shift, fire, lightning, and falling. And these people are using this esoteric level of knowledge all the time. Another interesting thing, I'm not saying all these were on purpose, there are coincidences happen, but there's so many of these things that were indications of the Twin Towers coming down or being attacked long before they were. This is on The Simpsons, 9/11. This is the invasion's begun. There's the Twin Towers again. This is another attack on the Twin Towers. This is a kind of a board game called Illuminati, where they have the Twin Towers as part of it. There's the Twin Towers attacked again and again. And look at that, there's a plane in that one, in this kind of comic book thing. Then this is Sega Saturn. They like me, they let me use their music. Long story. This is the Saturn air balloon that was actually flying around the Twin Towers around the time that they were attacked. And here in the Illuminati game again is the attack on the Pentagon and all the rest of it, which also was part of 9/11. And this was a big red flag. The Lone Gunman was a spin-off of the X-Files. And in March 2001, months before 9/11, they had an episode of The Lone Gunman in which an aircraft was hijacked in terms of its flying system and its computer system from the ground, overrode the input from the pilot, so they're sitting there they can't fly the plane because it's not responding to them because it's being flown from the ground, which is what I suggest happened on 9/11. And they fly it towards the Twin Towers, and they're going to smash it in the Twin Towers. This is in March 2001. And in the story, some good intelligence people hacked into the system, got control back from the pilots, and they pulled it up and just missed crashing into the towers. But they knew it was coming. Lots of people knew it was coming. This is Aaron Russo. He's an award-winning film producer. And he was a friend for a while of Nick Rockefeller, until Nick Rockefeller invited him to join the Council on Foreign Relations, one of these elite insider groups. And when he was asking him to join, which he refused to do, this is 11 months before 9/11, Aaron Russo eventually went public on this. Russo said that Rockefeller told him 11 months before 9/11 there would be an event that would lead to the invasion of Afghanistan and Iraq, to take over the oil fields and establish a base in the Middle East. Russo would see soldiers looking in caves in Afghanistan and Pakistan for Osama bin Laden. There would be an endless war on terror where there's no real enemy. The whole thing would be a giant hoax. People have to be ruled, he said, and the population reduced by at least half. Plans for mass microchipping of the serfs, as he called them, was also part of the agenda, he said. And here, Saturn symbolism or what, is the memorial to the victims of 9/11. I mean, that's taking the piss, that is. And so the official story of 9/11 has just left the room. But from that has come all this justification for the transformation of human society. Okay, common themes again. While 9/11 was going on, there were exercises in the same 9/11 skies and others around America, with scenarios going on, exercises that involved similar hijacking of planes. Indeed, one scenario was a plane hitting a building. And I've seen the logs and read the logs of NORAD, the official response system in North America to hijacks and stuff. And these exercises completely scrambled the reaction system. Not only that, the exercises seconded planes that would normally protect the skies over the eastern seaboard, and they took them out to exercises in other places. It scrambled the system. And these NORAD people, when the reports of 9/11 planes came in, said, is this real or is this exercise? And that's the idea. There was a form of exercise going on in London at the time of the 7/7 bombings in 2005, which was based on bombs going off at the same stations that actually they went off at. In 2004, there was a NATO anti-terrorism exercise in Madrid that went on almost up to the Madrid train bombings going off, which were all these things blamed on the wrong people. Then there was the Oslo situation, where there was a police bomb exercise going on in the same place up to 20 to 30 minutes before the real one went off. They'll be going off simultaneously eventually. And then all these lone nutters that are involved in these things. Why? Why are they lone nutters? Because you look at these people like James Holmes, the guy who's got the rap for the Colorado movie theater shooting. When witnesses in the theater said there were firing coming from at least two directions, so it wasn't only him, if it was him at all. Look at his eyes, no one home there. And so what have they done to this kid? Because there's mind-controlling people to do it, and there's mind-controlling people to be in the wrong place at the wrong time while others do it and take the rap for it. This guy, Wade Page, the guy who killed himself, they say, after the shootings in Wisconsin at the Sikh temple. Witnesses in the temple said there were multiple gunmen. But the reason they hold it at one lone nutter, all these going back, is that the definition of a conspiracy is an agreement between two or more persons to engage jointly in an unlawful or criminal act. If they can hold it to one person, they stop any suggestion or further investigation officially of a conspiracy. So, like I say, if you do not have a perception that is movable, then you only have the lie to go on, and thus most people believe the lie. Now, there's other common themes, like what they leave behind. You had these Muslim bomber, 9/11 people, hijackers, so we're told, and they left Qurans everywhere, these people. I thought it was a holy book. They left them in hire cars and hotels and everything. I mean, what are these people? The Islamic equivalent of the Gideons? Well, who are these people? And then they left flight manuals in their cars. You mean they're having the last look before flying a bloody wide-bodied jet? I mean, what? It's like, hey, let's just have a look. What's that knob do again? What? And of course, box cutters. I love that story. They said they'd found a building in Afghanistan just after 9/11 when they invaded, and Bin Laden had said to be there, and they found box cutters. Well, that's a lot of good in Afghanistan. It happened in New York, you pillock. I mean, but what is it? It's give them an image. Don't give them detail. You know they won't, most of them won't, it won't stick anyway. Just give them an image. Oh, you see, they did found box cutters, Ethel, so it was them Arabs. And I watched the BBC newsreader tell me a few days after 9/11 that the FBI had a press conference and announced that they found a passport from one of the hijackers in Vestry Street near Ground Zero. A paper passport. I think there's more to know here. I'm not a physics major, but, feel it in me water. I mean, whoa, God, dear me. But people believe it. People believe it. Repetition is one of the greatest forms of mind control and perception control. Keep telling them the same thing over and over again, it becomes the accepted truth. But if you can control the governments, you control the agencies that do it, you control the reporting of it, you control the investigation of it, you control the countries involved in it, you can put these things on and cover them up, no problem. And then what you do, problem, reaction, solution, is you then change the nature of society to solve the problem that didn't actually bloody exist, so you create it. This is Hitler announcing the creation of the Gestapo in Germany. An evil exists that threatens every man, woman and child of this great nation. We must take steps to ensure our domestic security and protect our homeland. Exactly. Could have been George Bush or any of them after 9/11. Problem, reaction, solution, Second World War. Same bloodlines were behind Soviet communism, Britain, America, etc. They were behind Nazi fascism. They brought them together in the Second World War. Massive global problem, and came massive global solutions. The world changed dramatically after World War I on purpose. It changed dramatically after World War II, and the dramatic bit, overwhelmingly, was the great centralization of power that it brought about. This guy, Werner von Braun, who was in Nazi Germany at the time of the war, was with many Nazis. Scientists and mind controllers and geneticists were brought to America and South America after the war to work for the CIA and stuff. And he was the major force behind the propulsion systems of the Apollo missions and stuff. And when he knew he was dying, he had an assistant, Dr. Carol Rossin, aerospace executive, who became his personal assistant in the last years of his life. And she went public after he died and said that von Braun had told her this, that there were going to be a series of fake enemies or dangers that were going to be used to change society. One was the threat from the Russians. Well, that was going on at the time. Then was going to come terrorism. Then was going to come third world crazes, what are now called nations of concern. Then was going to be asteroids. And finally, there was going to be a fake alien threat. And remember, Carol, the last card is the alien card. We are going to have to build space-based weapons against aliens, and all of it is a lie. And you know, I've got this from other sources too. When they start talking about we're facing an alien invasion, we have to come together, all resources to fight the bollocks it's going to be, and we should treat it as such. Now, there's another form of problem, reaction, solution, which I call no problem, reaction, solution. This is not a real problem, even a manufactured one. It is a lie which is designed to give the perception of a problem to justify changes in society. weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, classic. And the global warming hoax, human-caused global warming, is another one. And in and of it, you know, in its own way, the second death of Osama bin Laden was another no-problem reaction solution. Yes, they're going to star him in a new movie. You Only Die Twice, you know. Anyway, these are the Navy SEALs that shot bin Laden. Which is no more fantastic than the official story. This is the compound where he stayed in Kandahar. It's not really a compound, it's a house, but compound sounds more scary, you see. And these are the walking sticks which the man the CIA said they called the pacer used to use when he walked round the garden of the compound. And they said, we thought it might be bin Laden, but we weren't sure because we couldn't identify him. Hello? You can take my number plate from space. I mean, what? This is Osama bin Laden being taken away to be buried at sea. The mainstream media have looked at it and they say they think it's genuine. This is the official CIA report on the bin Laden shooting. This is a newspaper report in Egypt in 2001 reporting the burial and death of bin Laden. Musharraf, the president of Pakistan, said he was pretty sure that bin Laden was dead. And Benazir Bhutto, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, she said the same, that he was dead. And there's a guy called Steve Bajenic who's been in America, connected to many Republican administrations, who's gone public since the second death of bin Laden, saying he died in 2001 of Marfan syndrome, which is a disease of the connective tissue, which can have massive problems with heart and other organs. And he also definitely, according to mainstream media reports, had big kidney problems, problems to the point where he had dialysis. And when they found him shot him in the compound, they told me, I'm listening for mention of a dialysis unit in the compound, because it was that bad, apparently, and eventually it came on the basis that they haven't found one. So he's a bloody miracle, man, in there for 5 years. I mean, you know, amazing. And so you said, okay, they said this is bin Laden, but it was actually a Photoshop job. But then you said, okay, show us the body. Oh, can't show you the body, because we had to bury him at sea, according to a Muslim custom. Well, it's a bugger if you live in the Sahara Desert, mate, isn't it? And then, now you say, okay, it's bollocks, but let's move on. Show us the pictures of the body. Oh no, it's much too horrible. We can't show you that. Well, you show us horrible pictures of everyone else. Why are they showing us the pictures? There are none. Got it? Yes. And then this is great, because we had this again. Milk the image, not the detail, milk the image. Oh, they watched bin Laden being shot. Then it comes out there was no live footage of the shooting. Not this, because there was no shooting, but even officially, there was no live footage of the shooting. These were supposed to be watching the live footage of the shooting. I mean, what's she worried about? A crack in the bloody wall? I mean, what's going on? I'm ever so worried about that crack in the wall. It's moving where I'm looking at it. I mean, but people who don't connect the dots and take it further, they believe the lie and then forget they've believed the lie. They then announce, they found this footage, this is bin Laden. Well, no, it's not. It's a bloke with a beard with an hat on. And bin Laden was bloody massively left-handed, and this guy's changing the channels with his right hand. On that basis, by the way, he's changing channels one after the other, and ODE's on it. And what are the chances of that? And have you flicked as many channels of that anywhere in the world and not hit a bloody advert? No, but he only hit himself. It's ludicrous. Just repeat the lie and people will believe it. Then they said, we found this new footage. No, you bloody haven't. This is footage released in 2011. This is footage released in 2007. Well, we can't release it again because they'll notice. Well, put a blue background on it, mate. Put a blue, they'll never guess. Put a blue background. And this is new footage. And this is footage released in 2002. It's not new at all. This was bin Laden in 2004. This was him in 2007. It's a good job he died for a second time, or the FBI would be putting out an all-stations alert for a little boy with a beard and a bloody baby buggy, wouldn't they? Getting bloody younger. You've got to watch this stuff, you know, because computer graphics and computer manipulation of movies and sound and voice and everything, they can make someone say anything when they're bloody long dead. And you see this in the movies. You've got a blue screen and suddenly you've got a very credible background of something, which is just a bloody studio. And these bloody videos that came, oh, another bin Laden video. Hey, we've got an election coming up. Can you get another bin Laden video going? Yeah, let's call that Rita Katz at that site. Search for international terrorist entities. I spell it with an H myself, but this is someone connected to Mossad. A father was massively involved with Israel, and she was releasing these bloody videos, and we're supposed to take them frickin' seriously. And then they pull the compound down. Well, it's a perfectly good house, but they pull it down. And did you notice a lot of Navy SEALs from the same group that were supposed to have been involved then die in a helicopter crash not long after? And there's some guy now written a book, or says he is, under a pseudonym, about the shooting of bin Laden. Crikey, that's got to be a laugh. But people believe it, you see. And so when they announce bin Laden has died for a second time, they all come to the White House to congregate. USA, USA. Hey, excuse me, the president's just said the tooth fairy's real. Tooth fairy, tooth fairy. And a few people can't control the world. It's a piece of cake. And along with problem, reaction, solution and no problem, reaction, solution, there's the totalitarian tiptoe. This means that you're at A, you know you're going to Z, but you don't tell anyone else you're going to Z because they'll see something's going on. So you go towards Z as quickly as you can, from A to C, maybe to, F or whatever, as quick as you can, but not so quick as you alert too many people to the pattern. Fascism, you really think it was this obvious. Well, it's becoming this obvious, but up to this point, it's been this totalitarian tiptoe. And I've just described the European Union. I love the European Union. I think it's great. I think it's an abomination. And we are going further and further into a fascist dictatorship, communist dictatorship, however you want to talk about it, in Europe. This is Jean Monnet, the so-called founding father of what became the EU, and a Rothschild frontman, in a letter to a friend one day after I was born, 60 years ago. And he said, Europe's nations should be guided towards the superstate without their people understanding what is happening. This can be accomplished by successive steps, each disguised as having an economic purpose, but which will eventually and irreversibly lead to federation. And now we're having Jose Manuel Barroso coming out in the last few weeks calling for a federation of states with absolute loyalty to Brussels to sort out the problems that these buggers have on purpose created. Problem, reaction, solution. So we had this always bad, big bad communist war, always terrible, and the Cold War. And so then, because they wanted to encompass those countries into NATO and the European Union, along comes Gorbachev, smiley, happy, feely, the Berlin Wall comes down, and bingo, we have another version of the Soviet Union, but because people have a vote in pathetic European elections for a parliament that has no power, we're told it's not a communist or fascist state, it's actually a democratic entity. And they signed the Treaty of Rome that created what became the European Union on Mons Saturnis, Capitoline Hill. It has very great symbolic significance for them. So, also, totalitarian tiptoe is globalization. Globalization is simply the incessant centralization of power in every area of our lives. Thus, it is the agenda I've been talking about all these years unfolding before our eyes. And what they do is they abuse both sides of this globalization. They abuse the people who are making this stuff under starvation wages and horrific conditions, and then they charge as much as they can get away with in the West to make as much money as they can from selling it to the richer world. And the idea of globalization and bringing down so-called trade barriers is to create a situation where every part of the world is dependent upon some other part of the world and don't have the ability to be self-sustaining. Because once you lose the ability to be self-sustaining, you're now at the mercy of forces and changes you have no power over. That's the idea. And this network is behind globalization, the European Union, the whole bloody thing of centralization of power. Okay, global warming. Well, people have said that the whole global warming scam is about carbon taxation and all that stuff. If only. This is far more significant than even most conspiracy researchers that look at the global warming are kind of realizing. This is a justification of the most extraordinary transformation of human society from any vestige of freedom to pure, undiluted, totalitarian fascism. This is why, no matter what the scientific evidence, they will not look at it. They are pushing on with this agenda no matter what comes out, because it is vital. It is vital to everything in so many ways that they're trying to create, and I'm going to explain why. This is Al Gore. One of the things I've learned over this quarter of a century, if Al Gore's involved, it's a scam. End of story, by the way. Anyone who is vice president to Bill Clinton, well, say no bloody more. And it's eco-fascism because they need you to believe in global warming in order to control you. That's absolutely right, for this reason that I'm going to explain. We had the Earth concerts, usual bloody suspects pushing it, and this global warming survival reptilian brain handbook was written for the Earth concerts by David de Rothschild. He cares about the world. He's lovely. This is a graph of greenhouse gases. If you believe the bollocks and the propaganda, this has to be carbon dioxide. Has to be. But it's not. It's water vapor and clouds. This is CO2, and only the little sliver of green is caused by humans. The rest is natural. And by the way, without carbon dioxide, we wouldn't have the world that we live in. Yes, let's take something we need and demonize it. Yes, that's a good archontic inversion, isn't it? Yes, that's right. It's just come out in 2012 that from the end of the warming period, 1997 to 2012, there's been no warming, basically. So that's why they're calling it climate change. They can't call it global warming because people say, well, it ain't warming, mate. This is research by physicists at CERN in Geneva, which was banned for a while, but then it got out in the media and they released it. And this is the findings that have shown that there is a near perfect correlation between climate change, global warming, and the penetration of cosmic rays into the Earth's atmosphere throughout history. You don't mean that warming could have something to do with the sun, could you? No, notice the sun never gets a mention. Well, forget about the sun. No, it's carbon dioxide. Bloody ridiculous. There you go. What they've done is they took one cycle of solar activity, locked into it, called it global warming catastrophe, and have just, refused to go back on it. This is a guy who was one of the global warmists in the global warmist cult. He's had the guts to come out and speak the truth. A guy called David Evans, full-time and part-time consultant for 11 years to the Australian Greenhouse Office, now the Department of Climate Change. He said the debate about global warming had reached crazy proportions. I am a scientist who was on the carbon gravy train, understands the evidence, was once an alarmist, but am now a skeptic. He said the whole idea that carbon dioxide is the main cause of the recent warming was based on a guess that was proved false by empirical evidence during the 1990s, but the gravy train was too big, with too many jobs, industries, trading profits, political careers, and here we go. And the possibility of world government and total control riding on the outcome. Evans said that the governments and their tame climate scientists now outrageously maintain the fiction that carbon dioxide is a dangerous pollutant rather than admit they are wrong even when the evidence is overwhelming. They can't admit they're wrong. They can't admit they're wrong for reasons I'm coming to because their whole house of cards will come down. That is how important this is. And then I read a Reuters report. Missing global heat may hide in deep oceans. It's hiding now. The mystery of Earth's missing heat may have been solved. It could lurk deep in oceans, temporarily masking the climate warming effects of greenhouse gas emissions, researchers reported on Sunday. Whoa! Climate scientists have long wondered where this so-called missing heat was going. How about it wasn't bloody there? Especially over the last decade when greenhouse emissions kept increasing but world air temperatures did not rise correspondingly. It's hiding now. He's going looking for it, look. He's looking for the warming. Quick, 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 someone's coming. Act as if you're cold. Brr, brr. Oh, no, no, it's cold there. There's no warming hiding. Now, Club of Rome, mentioned it earlier. This was specifically set up to use the environment, and there are environmental concerns we should be dealing with, but they're being put aside for this bloody global warming bloody nonsense, to use the environment to justify this transformation of society I'm talking about. This is Aurelio Pecci, one of the founders of the Club of Rome, quoted in the First Global Revolution, 1991, a publication of the group. In searching for a new enemy to unite us, we came up with the idea that pollution, the threat of global warming, water shortages, famine and the like would fit the bill. And so we have these outrageous films with children blowing up because they don't agree with global warming. What a bloody outrage. And then we had this, I love this, we had this big alarmist thing came out recently. Oh, look at Greenland, it's the biggest surface melt, it's unprecedented in Greenland. Same press release. Melting events of this type occur about once every 150 years on average, with the last one happening in 1889. What happened to unprecedented? And by the way, what happened to the one before that one? What caused it? Turbocharged handcarts? And then NASA came out later and said actually there was a massive cyclone that was responsible for most of it. And then you look at the other end, the Antarctic, and it's a record ice cover in 2012. And yet we've got the cult, and he's in the carbon credits and bloody gravy train. This is the Prime Minister of Australia, Julia Gillard. She said, oh, no carbon tax under my government. Came in carbon tax, and it's devastating the Australian bloody economy. And I'd say to Greens, and I'd say to environmentalists, get your bloody arse in gear and realise what's real and what is manipulated. Because at the moment, ladies and gentlemen, you who have bought this bloody thing, you are demanding the building of your own prison. Now that's fine, but you're demanding the building of mine and my children's as well. On the basis of a bloody blatant lie. Here you go. Follow the Bono. That's a great thing. They say follow the money. I say follow the Bono. It's his mate. There's a few others. Look, you know, follow the Bono. They're all there. Now, there was a film came out earlier this year called Hunger Games. And this encapsulated in so many ways the society where the global warming bollocks is supposed to take us through justification. Of course, if you look at the symbol of the film, it's the phoenix, the firebird. For those who haven't seen it, it was a world sometime in the future of enormous total control, where different sectors were fenced off and people were not allowed to go in most of the land of the country, and they were controlled from something called the Capitol, which was an elite that was served by all the poor people and hungry people around the country. they had games every year where 2 young people were picked from each sector who had to fight on live television, and the one who won was the one that stayed alive after all the others were killed. The idea was to kill all the others and win the game. As Dr. Richard Day said in 1969, violence, pornography and obscenity in the media and movies will be increased to desensitize people to violence and porn and make them feel life is short, precarious and brutish. And the Hunger Games was a classic, but it was more than that. It was a symbol of the society that we're heading towards so fast. This was one of the elite in the Capitol, the equivalent of what people call the 1%, although, as I say, the real control is in far fewer than that. And we have a version of the Hunger Games, and it's called Agenda 21 Sustainable Development, and it is being orchestrated outside or through the United Nations, and it is a stalking horse, a Trojan horse for world fascism, as I'm going to go through and explain. Agenda 21 was agreed at the 1992 Earth Summit in Brazil, which was headed by this guy, Maurice Strong, one of the gang big time, a mate of Al Gore, and he said, Maurice Strong, this billionaire oil man, etc., he said, isn't the only hope for the planet that the industrialized civilizations collapse? Isn't it our responsibility to bring this about? What they are trying to do and planning to do is use saving the environment, which these buggers are destroying, to justify deindustrialization and the end of democracy and democratic, which is another thing I could talk about. Democracy and freedom, interchangeable? Don't think so. Anyway, this is the wish list in documents for Agenda 21 operating through the United Nations. An end to national sovereignty, all justified by saving the world, by the way. An end to national sovereignty. State planning and management of all land resources, ecosystems, deserts, forests, mountains, oceans and fresh water. Agriculture, rural development, biotechnology and ensuring equity, equal slavery. The state is to define the role of business and financial resources. Abolition of private property is not sustainable, they say. Here we go again. How many times has this come up? Restructuring the family unit, children to be raised by the state, people told, this is what Aldous Huxley said in Brave New World, people told what their job will be, major restrictions on movement, creation of human settlement zones, I'll get to them in a minute, mass resettlement as people are forced to vacate land where they live for reasons I'm coming to, dumbing down education, achieved a long time ago, mass global depopulation in pursuit of all of the above. And what they're doing to hide it is they're setting Agenda 21 organizations up in all local communities, all over the world, America, Britain, all over the place, and they're giving the impression that each of these is basically an independent local community initiative, when it's all being orchestrated through this organization, through the United Nations, called Local Governments for Sustainability. So when I came across all this stuff, I thought I'll have a look at the Isle of Wight, a few miles by a few miles, and I found that the Isle of Wight joined Agenda 21 in November 2000. And it says on the Agenda 21 Isle of Wight website that it was developed and written in partnership with the people of the Isle of Wight and reflects their vision for the future of the island. Ever since I saw that, I have been asking everyone I meet on the Isle of Wight, have you ever heard of Agenda 21? No, mate, no, mate, no, mate. Nobody's heard of it. And yet, it was the people. This is going on all over the world. And they openly talk in some of these organizations connected to it about the post-democratic, post-industrial world, which is basically symbolized in so many movies recently that are putting this stuff in. Now, Zbigniew Brzezinski, big mentor of Barack Obama, one of the demo cons, he was the national security advisor to Jimmy Carter, and he wrote in another of his prophetic books, because he knows what's coming, called America's Role in the Technotronic Era, 1970, The technotronic era involves the gradual appearance of a more controlled society. Such a society would be dominated by an elite unrestrained by traditional values. Soon it will be possible to assert almost continuous surveillance over every citizen and maintain up-to-date, complete files containing even the most personal information about the citizen. These files will be subject to instantaneous retrieval by the authorities. 1970 he wrote that. Now, we've had a technocracy, which is defined as government by technicians, specifically management of society by technical experts, including bankers, by the way, that includes. And look at what we've now got in Italy. We have, in one of the biggest economies and major countries of Europe, we have a government with not one elected official in it, headed by this guy, Mario Monti. And we had a situation in Greece where we had this guy, Lucas Papademos, as a banker, leader of the country, never seen a ballot box in his life. This organisation that I mentioned, I know, these bloodlines are bloody good lookers, ain't they? Hey? I blame the inbreeding myself. This is Brzezinski, comes from the planet Zog. And this is David Rockefeller. Now, they co-founded the Trilateral Commission, one of those organizations in that Bilderberg Council on Foreign Relations network with the Club of Rome that I've shown. And it just so happens that Mario Monti, before he became unelected leader of Italy, was the European head of the Trilateral Commission, and Lucas Papademos was a member of it. This is the first step to justifying problems, not least financial, to take away even the right of people to choose their own government, rubbish as most of them are anyway, but at least we've got a right to, at least in theory, choose it, but no choice at all. Bringing the technocrats in, this is absolutely in line with Agenda 21. And these bloody politicians in Westminster and all around the world, Capitol Hill, are all kind of, you know, especially on Capitol Hill, bought and bloody paid for. They've got to realise that they're in the bloody sights of this whole operation too, because they are due to no longer exist, but to be replaced by technocrats eventually. And they want a world of regions, because if you're going to have total control of people in the Orwellian police state way that they want. This is why things like the Hunger Games, they have sectors which are fenced off from the other sectors. Is you need to do it right into the local level if you want total control. And this is why you're seeing this movement of the police state going into communities at a lower and lower level. So one area of this structure that they want is breaking countries up into regions. And this is one of the maps for how they intend to break up European Union, into regions. And what they have planned is that regions of one country are connected into regions in another, therefore destroying national sovereignty and national unity, because they want an end to sovereignty. They want an end to all of it. They just want technocrats, bureaucrats, and uniform impositions of the decisions made by those people, and no democratic things at all. Now, this is something called America 2050. This is all connected into the agenda for Agenda 21, and they have broken up America into a series of mega regions in which they will have mega cities, what they call human settlement zones, which I'll get to. And part of this Agenda 21 is for an enormous cull of the global population. And I'm not kidding when I say cull. I'm talking coming down to 1 billion or 500 million in a world now of more than 7 billion. In 1979, these appeared in Georgia. They're called America's Stonehenge, the Georgia Guidestones, they call them. No one can put their finger on where they came from, who was behind them, and all the rest of it. They're aligned, astrologically aligned, and there's writing of them, written in stone and all that stuff, in different modern languages and some ancient languages, I think including Babylonian. And they call for the population of humanity to be maintained under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature. A draft copy of the United Nations Global Biodiversity Assessment calls for the world population to be reduced to some 1 billion, and Nick Rockefeller told Aaron Russo when that conversation took place that the population was going to be reduced by at least half. Whichever it is, there are massive reductions in population. And this guy, Gates and his missus, through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, are absolutely bloody obsessed, Bono's mates, with what they call population reduction. This is the image, the eye again, of this international hygiene meeting or event in Germany. And people don't realize that Hitler's race purity program was orchestrated from America and Britain, not least through the Rockefeller family, who paid for a whole floor of a German university to be occupied by Ernst Rudin and his team. Ernst Rudin was Hitler's race purity expert. And the Rockefellers, who were big time into eugenics and all this stuff, they sent eugenics experts to Germany to help and promote and give them information, backing and expertise in the program. The way that they plan to cull the population is cumulatively and in some ways directly. The cumulative is through vaccinations, through genetically modified food. Americans are awash with genetically modified food through genetically modified corn and stuff, and the impact on American health is catastrophic. Why wouldn't it be? Fluoride and stuff in the water, hunger, also manufactured disease, and radiation. And also, what did Dr. Richard Day say in 1969? Euthanasia and the demise pill. Limiting access to affordable medical care makes eliminating the elderly easier. We now have this Liverpool care pathway where doctors are deciding, often without even consulting the family, who is going to have their withdrawal of food, of fluids and of drugs so that they die very quickly. It's not the care pathway, it's the death pathway. We also have this situation in America with the death panels deciding who gets treatment and who doesn't among the bloody elderly. It's euthanasia. That's what it bloody is. And here, in terms of reducing the population, how about this? First of all, sperm counts in many parts of the world are plummeting. Why? They want to reduce the population, plummeting. And here's one. The third generation of rats fed genetically modified food becomes sterile. And there's a company, a biotech company, a small one in California called Epicite, and they came up with something called the Epicite gene. You know, long ago today, when we started, and I was talking about crazes, well, crazes, okay, crazes. What they did was isolate the gene that makes people sterile. It is a gene which, if it becomes part of your genetic structure, attacks sperm. It attacks sperm if you are male and kills them, so you are sterile. And any sperm entering the female that has that genetic part of its structure, then attacks the sperm and kills it, so they're sterile. Now, why would you create that? Well, okay, I don't know. But what did they then do, Epicite? They genetically engineered that gene into frigging corn. And then we go the next step. Monsanto and DuPont set up a joint venture to take over the Epicite gene and commercialize it. And if anyone thinks that, you know, this is an exaggeration involving reduction in population, this is a map of America under the UN Convention on Biological Diversity, the Wildlands Project, and it is America that they want to see under Agenda 21. If you can't read the words, I'll tell you this. The red bits are for little to no human use. The yellow bits are for highly regulated use. The only bits for normal use are these bits here and there that are in green. And they have to therefore clear the land to bring this about. And that's what they are doing, which explains so much that is going on that people don't say, why are they doing this? I'll tell you why they're doing this. Agenda 21, get them off the land. There's now a rural, White House Rural Council, which has all the government agencies, including the Department of Defense, to help rural communities know it is to rid rural communities of people under Agenda 21 and under eco-fascism. One of the things they're doing is creating more and more and more environmental regulations to make it impossible for small farmers and small growers and small landowners to survive in the rural communities. And therefore, they're destroying the rural communities to get them off the land. They're sending in these SWAT teams, bloody Keystone bloody cops, to treat decent people trying to grow organic and raw milk, produce raw milk. They're treating them appallingly, brutally, horrifically. And they are designed to get people off the land. Monsanto, no food shall be grown that we don't own. And more regulations to get people in a situation where it's impossible to continue. And who moves in? The corporations to take over the land. More and more we're seeing, so many stories on my website recently, more and more people are having their community gardens destroyed because they're told it's not in the zonal regulations, even though people are hungry and are getting the food for nothing. They're being banned from growing food in their front garden and all the other stuff at a time of great economic challenge. And this is what Dr. Richard Day said in 1969. Growing food will be banned by saying it isn't safe, and the state corporations will control all food production. The supply and distribution of food will be monitored so that no one can give food to a fugitive of the system. And they're also doing it by changing the regulations to stop people growing food at home. So that all these things are coming together so that only the Food Inc., Big Food, will control the food chain. And who gets food? Those that conform to the system. And they're doing it in other ways. When in 2011 they had those floods in the Missouri and Mississippi rivers, the US Army Corps of Engineers announced that they had to blow the levees, I think it was on the Missouri, to save the people further down the river. So they blew the levees, and this is what happened to the land of small farmers all around that region, destroyed. 3 weeks later, letters arrive from the government offering to buy the land through the US Corps of Engineers, or Army of Engineers. The Army Corps of Engineers, whatever they call it. And the other thing they're doing is taking out freeway exits to rural communities, which used to be very helpful economically. And what they're doing instead is putting these corporation kind of food centres in the middle of bloody nowhere, which helps basically no one. And these communities, these rural communities, are dying. And people are leaving, and they're taking the bloody land over. They are taking out dams so that people can't farm anymore. They are destroying or closing rural roads. Or they are, on a massive scale, taking the tarmac from roads and leaving them as gravel, making it more and more difficult for people to live in rural communities. It's all being done on purpose. And this bloke, you know, when he came in, Cameron, never mentioned it in the election, and then suddenly announces he wants to sell off all the forests of Britain, all the state forests. That's Agenda 21. Now, because the people responded, he had to take a step back. but he'll still go on trying to do it, if not en masse, then in little bits. And this big society, it's just Agenda 21. And what's happening in this country? Small farmers are going out of business on a fantastic bloody scale. Getting them off the land, that's the bloody idea. And where do they want to put them in? Human settlement zones. They want this kind of in by 2050, 2060. And it's the world of the Hunger Games. They want, this is in their bloody documents, they want to pack people together in high-rise, basically prison cell-sized living space. So all the people, those that they don't want to cull, are in one place, and they've cleared the land of everything else, straight off the pages of Hunger Games, that is. This is Michael Bloomberg, Mayor of New York, massive insider in all this and frontman, and he has just announced in the last few months the first phase of Agenda 21, he doesn't call it that, of course, building of 165,000 units in New York, right? Absolutely, the specification and the way that they are going to be built and arranged is classic Agenda 21. And the space that these apartments will cover for each person or family is between these two yellow lines. They are 10 feet by 30 bloody feet. Classic Agenda 21. Building regulations are being changed in places like California to stop, to reduce the amount of land that is used to build buildings. And by 2020, this directive of the European Union says that all new building must use nearly zero energy by 2020. And that means massive changes in the structure and nature of human society and living space. And this is the Archon world of these Archon bloodlines that I talked about. No creativity. Humans have creativity. They have to use human creativity. They don't have it. And here, look at that. Here are some of the bloody houses that they're talking about for people under Agenda 21. You know, talk about bloody uninspired. And then one of the things that was emphasized in the Hunger Games was the high-speed train that took the competitors from the sectors to the capital for this, you know, kill-to-the-death bloody games. And high-speed train networks are all part of Agenda 21. They want that to be the main source, because they want an end of people and cars and stuff like that, except then. But they want high-speed trains to be the prime source of, or form of transport. And interestingly, you know, here's the regions that they want under Agenda 21 in America, everyone else off the land in all these other places. And, you know, once the plane arrived, American trains just disappeared, Amtrak. They just, you know, basically hardly anyone used them. It was all aircraft. Well, suddenly, out of nowhere, Obama announced a massive building program, phased building program, for high-speed train networks in America. And when you look at where he wants to build them, it's like placing them over a map of the Agenda 21 regions of America. And then, of course, out of nowhere, Cameron announced this year the biggest railway building program since Victorian times with high-speed stuff. And these high-speed networks are happening all over Europe. And I tell you this, I know this for a fact, that at least some, probably many, of the people apparently working for European train companies orchestrating this high-speed network they're building don't work for the train companies, they work for bloody NATO, that is doing the orchestrating. Get them off the land. Well, get them off the land through weather manipulation. We're seeing this big time now. This is HAARP, the High Frequency Active Auroral Research Project in Alaska, now connected to many other similar things around the world. In short, it bounces radio waves of high power off the ionosphere in the higher atmosphere, bounces them back to Earth, and can do many, many things, including create earthquakes and piece of cake manipulate the weather. one of the telltale signs of an earthquake created artificially appears to be these colored lights that appear in the sky, or colored images in the sky, which precede an earthquake. And this guy, Professor Kosuke Haki, expert in GPS signals, he said in the mainstream media, 1 hour before an earthquake in Japan and the one in Chile in 2002, there were more electrons coming through the ionosphere. This is a very strange phenomenon. Well, not if you're dealing with technology that not only bounces radio waves off the ionosphere, but often punches holes in the ionosphere when it's doing it. And even in the even in the patents that was applied for by a guy called Bernice Eastland for the original HARP technology, mentions this man, Nikola Tesla. He was, in truth, the scientific genius of the 20th century, and he'd probably be the scientific genius of the 21st if he was still here. What he had done is cross the bloody line, which mainstream science will not do because of all the implications for the agenda if it does. That line is to cross the line into understanding, a greater understanding of what reality is and how you can use it to create all the warmth and power you need without, once the technology is there, without cost. And part of that is accessing the electrical level of the universe, what I've been talking about, and turning it into usable warmth and power. And what did he say? If you wish to understand the universe, think of energy, frequency, and vibration. He was making weather effects. His neighbors were complaining to the police. He was creating lightning above his home in New York. He created mini bloody earthquakes with thousands of windows crashing when the technology went more than he thought, and like kind of crazy bloody comedy film, he couldn't turn the bloody thing off and all the bloody windows were going. And he also understood how to create free energy. Like I say, accessing the natural power and sources of power in the universe and turning it into usable power and warmth without cost and without, if you like, carbon dioxide. Now, the same bloody people that are saying we must do all this to save the world from carbon dioxide are the same people that have been suppressing this technology for bloody decade after decade after decade. Now, in terms of weather manipulation, Dr. Richard Day, the 1969 man, he actually worked on weapon manipulation in the US military during World War II. And the BBC recently did a radio documentary in which they exposed that the Great Flood at Lynmouth in 1952, when they had 250 times the rainfall, and it created this massive wave of water that came through the village, killing 35 people, was actually done by the RAF. They called it Operation Cumulus, also Operation Witch Doctor, and it was manipulated on purpose as an experiment on weather manipulation. It's been going on that long and earlier. Here is a US Air Force document, 1996. It describes the artificial creation of floods, hurricanes, droughts and earthquakes, and continues. Weather modification will become a part of domestic and international security and could be done unilaterally. It could have offensive and defensive applications and even be used for deterrence purposes. The ability to generate precipitation, fog, storms on Earth, to modify space weather, and the production of artificial weather all are part of an integrated set of military technologies. Now, of course, most people will now be bloody aware, my God, were we bombarded this year or what? With chemtrails, not contrails which disappear, condensation trails, chemtrails that don't disappear if they come out the back of these bloody aircraft. They stay around and they come out and eventually drop to the earth, and they have strontium, they have aluminium, they have barium. It's acidifying water, it's acidifying the land, and it is causing tremendous impacts on human health. Cumulatively, again, the coal. But it's doing something else. In the HARP patents and specifications, etc., in the description of a researcher describing and summarizing what it said this: dispersed metallic particles such as aluminium, barium and strontium, the main chemical ingredients of chemtrails, or ingredients of chemtrails, may increase the atmosphere's conductivity and therefore enhance HAARP's weather modification performance. So it's doing that as well. So where am I going with this? Well, I'm going here. Dr. Richard Day, 1969, the weather will be modified and used as a weapon of war to create drought or famine. A weapon of war against who? In Agenda 21 terms, a weapon of war against the small farmers, landowners and growers of the world, not least in America. We have had in America this massive drought this year, which has devastated small independent farmers and growers. Of course, the big bloody corporations can cope with it, got unlimited bloody funds when they're part of the agenda. And so, also, in 2011 and other times, we've had these extraordinary forests of tornadoes. It was about 300 in a period of 3 days at one point. I think it was 2011. And that, of course, is devastating rural communities and what have you. Creating tornadoes with HAARP technology, child's bloody play. And what have we had in this country? Devastating weather and floods, which again has had a massive impact upon small farmers and growers. And you know, there was a report for the European Parliament, a European Parliament committee in the 1990s, about HAARP, which was actually quite good because it was saying, hold on a minute, we don't like this. And one of the things it was saying is that HAARP technology had the ability to manipulate the jet stream and change weather patterns. Well, when you look at the meteorological explanation for the great deluge in Britain this summer, they say extraordinary things happened to the jet stream. And instead of going away and taking, dropping some and going off into Europe, it basically started doing this, which is why we got the bloody lot. And when the farmers and growers collapse, in come the big agribusiness people, the network, to take over the land for cents on the dollar. Also, we're having this devastating impact upon the bee population around the world. Monsanto, another word for bloody evil. And the other part of this is to create food shortages. Food shortages because it's not there, because of the production, and food shortages that people simply cannot afford it because it's so bloody expensive. And control if they eat, and their hearts and minds will follow. This is all part of the control system that they're bringing on. Get them off the land free. Financially, get them off the land. They can't afford to stay there anymore. There you go. There you go. This is the... this is where we're at. Hunger Games, Agenda 21 or what? 3.5 million homeless, 18.5 million vacant homes in the United States. There you go. Oh, you're poor. What a joke. Woman in £1 million hat makes speech about austerity. Praying for starving children while sitting on a golden throne. This is the dynamic between people, politicians and banks. These answer to the same masters, thus they change legislation to suit them and screw them. This is how it works through this system. This is why the governments are not doing what's right for people, economically or any other way. They're doing it for that which they represent. Politics, banking and all their other stuff. One global unit. As this guy, I won't say it again, but this guy was talking about all the Satanists in banking. And this guy said, the system is broken, it was built this way. Of course it was. You know, let's get this right. I go to a bank, and you lend me money that doesn't exist, and then I pay you interest on it, plus the bloody principal, right? Let me get my head round that. But that's what's happening. They've created a system, because of the dynamic of the politicians representing the banks. Legislation has been passed that allows banks to lend at least 10 times what they have on deposit, fractional reserve lending. So every time we borrow $50,000 from a bank, or putting $50,000 into a bank, let's put it the other way, they can now lend 10 times that, which doesn't exist, to other people that come and want a loan. It's interesting when you follow this around the banking system. One loan. I go for a loan. Can you lend me £50,000? Yes, I can. Why were you going to lend it me? I'm going to type £50,000 into your account. Where's it coming from? Oh, just type it in. That's no problem. So, okay, now you've got £50,000, right? Which we have created out of nothing. Fresh air. Okay, so you get it. In theory, these figures on your screen. You see a car you like. You go over here. And you say, I'll pay for the car. You give him 10 grand or 5 grand for the car, whatever. He then takes that money and he puts it in his bank. Now this bank can lend 10 times that, which has come from this, which was created out of bugger all in the first place. And when you follow this through the banking system, the amount of money that can be created from a single loan that was out of nowhere in the first place is absolutely bloody fantastic. These people, if they were charged with criminal activity, they would have to reincarnate many times to finish the bloody sentence. But it's worse than that, because who creates money? Governments create money. No, they don't. Overwhelmingly, private banks create money by issuing non-existent money called credit. Thus, this is how the economic cycle goes. Banks issue lots of credit. A boom is created. In the boom, people feel more confident because they've got lots of orders in their business and they've got jobs look safe. They borrow more money. Companies borrow money for more plant and machinery. People borrow money to go have a bigger house, a bigger car, or a bigger holiday, or whatever. What happens in a boom is people tend to get more and more into debt, credit card and all that stuff. And then at the optimum point, the fishing line has gone out there, now they're pulling it in. They create a crisis or a reason to take money out of circulation, not make as many loans. What do they call it in 2008? A credit crunch. Nice one. And then suddenly there's not this same amount of money in circulation, even non-existent stuff, to create the economic activity that was created before. So suddenly people can't buy as many things, people don't sell as many things, and therefore businesses start to shed workers or go out of business. People can't pay their mortgages, so they lose their homes. And the banks that have created this situation by lending money that doesn't exist plus interest then get all that wealth that does exist as they call in loans of collateral. And this is how, over centuries, fishing line out, fishing line back, they have hijacked the real wealth of the bloody world. And the Rothschilds are massively behind this in the banking system. This is Nathan Rothschild, the man who was responsible for building up the Rothschild empire in Britain. I care not what puppet is placed upon the throne of England to rule the empire on which the sun never sets. The man who controls Britain's money supply controls the British Empire, and I control the British money supply. And if you have one single currency, whoever controls that money supply controls the bloody world. That's the idea. And if you control the banks, and you control the central banks, and you control the reporting of the financial industry, you stitch the whole bloody thing up. In 2008, when the crash happened, I said that three things would happen. First of all, there was the crash of 2008. That had happened. Then that said there's a problem. Two, governments throw fantastic amounts of borrowed money, credit at the perpetrators, the banks, until the financial barrels are empty. We're there. And then at some point, they want to crash the economy again on a massive scale to create the situation where there is a complete transformation of the financial system in the way that they want to create it, and it will be based on a world central bank, they're already talking about it, which would dictate all global finance. What are they doing in the European Union? Stepping stones, totalitarian tiptoe. They're saying as a result of the financial crisis in Europe, which these have created, we must have centralized control of all the banking in Europe. And then you look at the people who are coming forward to solve the problem. When we had the crash in 2008, the Bush Treasury Secretary was Hank Paulson, who'd come a few years earlier from Goldman Sachs, where he was Chief Executive Officer. The new head of the European Central Bank is Mario Draghi. Mario Draghi is a former employee of Goldman Sachs. The guy currently unelected and running Italy, Mario Monti, is a former executive of Goldman Sachs. And former executive of Goldman Sachs is like saying former agent of the bloody CIA. They never are. So all this money was hosed at the banking system, and in that way, a banking crisis became a government crisis, because now the money's come from the government to the banks, and the governments are then making it a people crisis. And we said, what just happened? I thought it was a banking crisis. Now they're taking everything away. Austerity programs. Agenda 21. That's what it's all about. And see, what they want is a single currency. That's what they want. So the euro was never an end in itself. It was always a stepping stone to the single currency. All the euro is a stalking horse which has been used to delete the multi-currencies of Europe. It's deleted the guilder, it's deleted the mark, it's deleted the lira. But it's not an end in itself. It's a way of deleting all those independent currencies. And they want, eventually, the euro, it might be tomorrow, but they want the euro to disappear so the world currency can come forward. And people like George Soros, one of the demo cons and a Rothschild frontman, he and the Vatican has called for world central bank and a world government and all the rest of it. The IMF, which is just another agency of the bloodlines, is now taking over control of countries like Ireland and others on the basis of this economic crash which has been manipulated. And again, no heart, no empathy, consequences for people, consequences for families, consequences for children. They couldn't give a shit because they have no empathy. And what we are seeing all over Europe is this gathering economic situation because it's manipulated for a specific end. Britain is now £1 trillion in debt. And the more and more debt people or countries get into, the more and more control they give away to others. America has just passed $16 trillion in debt. In truth, it's bloody bankrupt. And it's being done systematically. I've been saying this for years. America is being used to destroy America, economically and militarily. Any country that cared about the people in a massive economic crisis would not be spending trillions on the bloody military and wars in different parts of the world. But it ain't the American military. It's the cabal's military being used to orchestrate the campaign of acquisition for the cabal. Therefore, they're just using America's economy to bloody pay for it. And the idea of destroying America is if you have superpowers that have the economic and military might to say no to your world government, you do not have a world dictatorship. So destroying superpowers is absolutely crucial to this world dictatorship that they want to bring in and are in the process of bringing in. And then there's these bloody credit ratings agencies, Moody's, Standard & Poor's and Fitch. They were the buggers that gave AAA ratings to total shite that actually helped massively to cause the crash of 2008. Now, they're credit rating countries and bringing mayhem. And the media are saying, oh, there's trouble at Mill for Portugal. The credit ratings agencies are downgrading. They're bloody owned by the same people that own the banks, for goodness sake. It's all a scam. And this is the Hunger Games world, the Agenda 21 world that's unfolding. And you know, it's great that people are challenging this thing with the protests and stuff, but it needs to go more than that, and they need to get streetwise. Because in the end, this world government structure of fascist control, it's not bothered about what the form of control is, it just wants the control. So it's quite happy for independent banks and biotechs and energy companies to be brought together under so-called government control, under like Orwell's ministries. So they'd have a World Ministry of Oil, a World Ministry of Biotech. The World Health Organization, created by the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, by the way, would become the World Health Ministry, controlling all pharmaceutical stuff and health and what have you, what passes for health for these people. And therefore, we've got to be streetwise, that if we see this happening, we don't say, yeah, get the banks and all that stuff, because we'll be cheering for the next stage of control, which is even more than it is now. We've got to get streetwise. Another thing, just a quick aside, there is a massive, massive problem in the background of gold that ain't bloody gold, that's actually gold-covered tungsten, which is counted as gold, and when that bloody comes home to roost, that's a massive impact on the economy as well. And talking about, you know, the economy and debt, this is what this is about. Debt is control. So let's get young people up to their neck in debt, massive debt, which they then spend the rest of their lives paying off. Just to be bloody programmed with a systems version of events. This is a great list. This is what you learn from school. Truth comes from authority. Intelligence is the ability to remember and repeat. Accurate memory and repetition are rewarded. Non-compliance is punished. Conform intellectually and socially. This guy, H.L. Mencken, said, the aim of public education is not to spread enlightenment at all. It is simply to reduce as many individuals as possible to the same self-level, to breed a standard citizenry, to put down dissent and originality. And there was a study at the William and Mary College in Virginia where they studied the personality changes as people went through school. And they found this, a massive decline in creativity as children have become less emotionally expressive, less energetic, less talkative and verbally expressive, less humorous, less imaginative, less unconventional, less lively and passionate, less perceptive, less apt to connect seemingly irrelevant things, dots, less synthesizing and less likely to see things from a different angle. That's what they found happens as people go further and further into system. And now they want to take this system and they want to make the kids pay for it with debt for much of the rest of their lives, right? Now, here's my suggestion, here's my question. What do you want to bloody do it for? What do you want to do it for? Why do you want to go through this system and have them tell you what you must think about every bloody thing, and if you don't tell the exam paper what it's told you to believe, then you won't pass? Why is it the done thing that you go through school, kitty kitty, and then you then have to go to university? Oh yes, you go to university, that's what you have to do. Oh, you've got a chance to go to university and you're not taking it. Oh, you're crazy. Oh, I'm not speaking to you anymore and I'm your father. And all this bollocks, right? Well, and I see these protests of young people and students in London and stuff over the ever-increasing fees that are being charged to get ever-increasing debt for control over young people at the earliest possible stage in their lives. And I see them do their protests and all that stuff, and that's great. And then they go back to bloody college and university. The only way it's going to change is if they refuse to bloody go. Don't take part in the system. Now, and then they say, well, I won't get a good job if I don't go to university. I know university students are packing shelves in supermarkets. Surely you have the creative ability to create a life without going through this friggin' sausage machine. Of Come on, we can do this. We don't need the bloody system. Perception control. This is a major thing that's going on. They're creating an electromagnetic sub-reality to talk to us within the frequency of human brainwave and electromagnetic activity. And this is what these are about. First of all, America, Britain, anyone else listening, we need a massive no-compliance rebellion against these frickin' things. Watch the word smart. Big red alert. Smart is the buzzword of Agenda 21. It talks about smart meters, smart grids, smart cities, human settlement zones, smart growth, smart drugs, smart frickin' arse. That's when he's talking about smart Agenda 21. And what is this bloody old thing? This is in their own bloody documents, not bloody, sitting in a darkened room working this out, bloody telling you. This is a plan to create eventually a global smart grid. And what the smart meters are, as part of the smart grid, they create, in effect, a electromagnetic internet, wireless internet, in your home. Very, very bad for health, especially the young. And also, it's about not only picking up information from your home and delivering that information to a central source, but also bringing information into your home within the human brainwave and electromagnetic frequencies to speak to you subconsciously and deliver you with the perceptions that they want. Let's look at this. This is CIA Director David Petraeus in a speech he made, or a talk he talked about the Internet of Things. This is what he said. Items of interest will be located, identified, monitored and remotely controlled through technologies such as radio frequency identification, microchips, sensor networks, tiny embedded servers and energy harvesters, all connected to the next generation of internet using abundant, low-cost and high-power computing that would transform the art of spying and allow people to be monitored and automatically without planting bugs or direct infiltration. He said that this involved new technologies which added processors and web connections to previously home appliances like fridges, ovens, lighting systems. Remember that for a second. This is known as the Internet of Things. Petraeus has confirmed that people would be watched through televisions. These are Orwell's screens. So the idea of the smart meters is to create this energetic environment, this information environment, which is delivering information about you to the authorities and delivering information from the authorities at the subconscious level to speak to you. The smart grid is watching you. And the idea then is to connect these grids in different countries into a global grid. They talk about it in their documents. And, on just the health dangers alone, especially to children, this is the American Academy of Environmental Medicine. The board of AAEM opposes the installation of smart meters in homes and schools based on scientific assessment of the current medical literature, which raises credible questions about genetic and cellular effects, hormonal effects, male fertility, yes, blood-brain barrier damage, and increased risk of certain types of cancers from RF or ELF levels similar to those emitted from smart meters. The board finds it unacceptable from a public health standpoint to implement this technology until these serious medical concerns are resolved. We consider a moratorium of installation of wireless smart meters to be an issue of the highest importance. Ignored because why? It's the agenda for Agenda 21. This lady thought she'd go green. She doesn't have to quite yet, but they wanted to very shortly in America, with these green anything but bulbs, which are now being imposed upon us in Europe, of course, and other places around the world. And she thought she'd buy some of these things, these bulbs that got mercury in them, and she put one in her daughter's bedroom, and it broke. So she called Home Depot and asked them what she should do. And they said, well, you better call the state authorities and they'll tell you. And they told her she had to employ this private company to come and clean up her daughter's bedroom of this contamination from mercury. And it cost her $2,000 for one light bulb. And if you look at the British health advice and regulations for these things when they break, it's do everything but evacuate your bloody home. It is ludicrous. These mercury bulbs are going to go and are going onto, open bloody rubbish sites and tips, and they're going to break. Of course they are, and the mercury's going to get in the groundwater supplies and all that stuff. And we're talking billions and billions that are used around the world. And the other thing about this, you know what that is? That is a transmitter of information. That's what that is, and I'll tell you what I mean. Red flag when any authority doesn't say, we encourage you to use these, but says, no, you are going to use these because we're going to ban the bloody alternative. That's what they've done with these bulbs, and when they do that, it's the agenda. And when it's the agenda, it is more than what seems to be the case, and it's always about human control and often increasingly destroying human health. The woodpecker signal came about, I think it was in the 1970s, came to light, and it was a signal that the Soviet Union was broadcasting into America, and they called it the woodpecker signal because it was going rat-a-tat-tat, rat-a-tat-tat like a woodpecker. And what it was doing was delivering subliminal information into America to affect the perceptions of Americans. And these two guys, Dr. Robert Beck, an expert in nuclear engineering, and Dr. Michael Pessinger of the Laurentian University in Canada, an expert in extremely low-frequency radiation, they made a study of the potential of electromagnetic mind control. This is what the smart meters are, electromagnetic mind control. Dr. Beck told a Psychotronics Association conference in 1979, that long ago, that human subjects exposed to certain ELF field patterns reported sensations of uneasiness, depression, and foreboding. He said that he had measured the Russian woodpecker signal and found that it was acting like gangbusters right in the window of human psychoactivity. Exactly. Get in there by going on the same frequency the bloody brain works on. Now, here's the point. He said the signal was, the woodpecker signal was permeating power grids in the United States. It was being picked up by power lines, re-radiated, and it was coming into homes on the light circuits. Now, that was doing that in a light circuit electrical system that was not purpose-built for the job. The smart meters and the smart grids are purpose-built deliverers of subliminal information into every home and business that is involved in them. If we don't say no to this, then might as well put our bloody hands out and get the shackles on. Come on, enough! And all the things these bloody lights do to people, they're not even any bloody good. You go to a hotel with them in, I never put them on. When you bloody do, you can't read anything. They're rubbish, because that's not what they're there to do. And this radiation agenda, look at that. That's 15-minute rather phone call on these bloody things. What do they put phone calls on one of the most lethal parts of the electromagnetic spectrum? It's bloody lunacy. But it's not if you know what they're trying to do. So what we see with all these transmitters and stuff is they're creating a sub-reality, an electromagnetic field, information field, to feed us information and another level of the fake reality. This is what's happening. And what it's doing is locking into the electromagnetic field, because that's what it is, electromagnetic phenomena, and it's coming through to affect the holographic level, because if you distort the electromagnetic field, you distort the holographic level in terms of health. And this guy, Michael Persinger again, a neuroscientist at the Laurentian University in Canada, said this, absolutely right. For the first time in our evolutionary history, we have generated an entire secondary, virtual, densely complex environment, an electromagnetic soup that essentially overlaps the human nervous system. Exactly. This is what we're looking at. This is the paddle stores in Shit Creek we're looking at here. Finding out what's bloody happening so we can do something about it. The radiation agenda, I've been looking at this for bloody years, ticking off the sources of radiation as they just compound on top of each other. One of the things that the European Parliament report said about HAARP is that it was punching holes in the ionosphere and allowing cosmic radiation in that shouldn't be getting in. You've then got the smart meters, you've got the electricity grids, you've got the phones, you've got the Wi-Fi, and then you've got all the bloody spent uranium that's coming in the weapons, in all these bloody wars they're dropping, these bombs they're dropping around the world, and you're getting all these genetic effects, horrible genetic effects in the next generation because of the distortion of the DNA, yes, distortion of the genetic structure. And then you've got Fukushima. I'm not going to go into this now, but it's in my last book, Remember Who You Are. I have no way Fukushima was a bloody accident. No way. And look at it. Ever since, it's been pouring ridiculous amounts of radiation into the atmosphere. And maybe there's another reason for that. Because you know what people say who research this but only get as far as the 5 sense level? They say, but why would these people poison their own atmosphere? Well, the people, the entities behind this, are not like us, and they want control of the planet. They cannot come here for long because there are vibrational and atmospheric reasons why they can't stay, and that's why they need the bloodlines as middlemen and women. What if, a big what if, I say, that they're trying to change the atmosphere? And they have these bombs all over the world, these nuclear bombs called nuclear power stations. And I talked to a lady in the 1990s at length, a lady called Dr. Kitty Little. She was an Oxford Don, getting on in years at the time, and she had been massively involved in the nuclear industry, government level and stuff, various institutions. And she told me at the time, she said, you know, the Rothschilds were absolutely the people that brought in nuclear power. They were the ones that made it happen. And if the Rothschilds do it, there is an agenda for human control or human negative effects, because that's all they bloody do. So what about if they're changing the atmosphere? And another thing they say, people say, is why would they destroy their own planet? Well, this planet's different to the ones that they operate on. These bloodlines are the ones that are destroying the frickin' planet. These are the corporations destroying rainforests. People like Monsanto are destroying massively species diversity, so we're becoming a monoculture. The planet is being killed by these people. The organic planet is being killed by the inorganic. Monsanto wants to replace all natural crops and seed varieties worldwide with genetically modified species. They are creating the GMO superweeds, which are creating mayhem. This is the Archon world, what the corporations are doing to the rainforests. And the bloody Greens ought to turn their bloody heads at this part of the agenda and not be diverted away from this bollocks which is being orchestrated by the people doing this. It's interesting that they talk about the Grim Reaper in terms of genetically modified food. The Grim Reaper, yeah, Saturn. There's Monsanto. What they do, this guy Michael Taylor is a Monsanto executive, and then he moves to a government agency that's supposed to be policing Monsanto. And then he moves back to Monsanto, and now he moves back to government that's supposed to be policing Monsanto. And now this guy, this crook, is in charge, in effect, of the entire United States food policy. And he's a front man for Monsanto. There you go, GMO. What is it doing? It's genetically modifying us. And if you go to davidicke.com and the Medical Health Archive and look up Genetic Roulette, it's a documentary about the effect of GM on human genetics. It is absolutely a must-watch. So, perception control, Agenda 21. Giving us all this crap is not only poisoning us, although that's part of the cull, cumulative poisoning, but it's also destabilizing. Again, you know, we see all this shite here, but actually it's distorted information. It's distorting the way the human form decodes reality and interacts with reality, so that we are more and more creating a distorted reality, not seeing things in clarity. It's like a computer that's malfunctioning. And they're putting fluoride in the water. Why would they bloody do that? It's part of the agenda, that's why. This is fluoride, an ingredient in Prozac, sarin nerve gas, rat cockroach poisons, and pesticides, anesthetic, hypnotic, and psychiatric drugs, and it doesn't stop tooth decay. This is from the website of one of the companies that sells fluoride for water fluoridation. This is what it says about fluoride on its own website. There's many other examples of this with other companies that do it. Fluoride is used in the manufacture of effervescing steel and the smelting and refining of light metals. It is also used in fluoridation of drinking water as a wood preservative, an adhesive preservative, an insecticide, a protective coating for metals, a pickle for steels and other metals, a flux for soldering and welding, as well as a flux and pacifier for ceramic, glass and porcelain enamel. They're putting it in the bloody water. They're putting it in the toothpaste. That's what it's doing with fluorosis. But why would any sane people who care about humanity be putting the bloody waste products from the aluminium industry into drinking water and toothpaste? They would be doing it if they had an agenda for the mental, emotional and physical suppression of humanity. That's why they would do it. And some research is pointing to the fact that fluoride, when it's connected with the aluminium in chemtrails, creates something called aluminium fluoride, which has been connected to mass sedation and dementia. And this guy, Dr. Dean Burke, 34 years at the National Cancer Institute in America, said in point of fact, fluoride causes more human cancer death, and it causes it faster than any other chemical. Think cull agenda. And it calcifies the pineal gland, which takes us into other levels of reality. And now they're openly talking about putting lithium in the drinking water, which will make us happy and love our servitude, exactly as Aldous Huxley talked about in Brave New World. And this is how they're doing it, because Big Pharma connects into the same bloody force as the secret societies, Satanism, and the political structure. Thus, they all work as one unit. And it's the same with the World Health Organization and the pharmaceutical cartel. They all work as one, and therefore they come together to say it's great to poison the immune system of babies and very small children while the immune system is still forming, because then the immune system will never ever be as effective through their lives as it would have been left to its own devices. And this guy, Bill Gates, watch him like a bloody hawk with field glasses on. This guy is involved in everything in terms of funding through the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. That is the agenda. Funding vaccinations around the bloody developing world on a massive scale. Funding things and promoting climate change being real. Putting sulfur in the bloody atmosphere to manipulate on behalf of saving the bloody planet. We need saving from Bill Sodding Gates, in my view. And He's obsessed with population control, and now he's getting in with Monsanto and bloody Bono and these people, bloody genetically modified food with these vaccines in places like Africa, because we have to have genetically modified food because then we can feed the world. No, we can't. We will starve the world because it destroys the soil, it destroys the crops, and it destroys genetic diversity. They are unbelievably, in terms of scale, drugging the young of the world, finding more and more reasons to give them drugs. Attention deficit disorder. I've got an answer to that. Give them something interesting to do, or let them express their own uniqueness. No, give them a drug. I had attention deficit disorder when I was at school. It was called being bloody stiff by what they were trying to tell me. I had a cure for it, daydreaming out the window, no drug necessary. And all this is in Brave New World. It's all a long plan. All these guys, oh, there you go, bloody mad. And this is the other agenda. They want to kind of drug people and poison people, but there are other people with a mind of their own that actually can see this and are trying to avoid it with organic food and with alternative methods of healing, with alternative supplements that the food no longer gives us. And the authorities like the EU and the Food and Drug Administration in America and all these bloody crooks, they're all front agencies for the biotech and pharmaceutical cartel, and they are destroying the opposition, and they're doing something more. They're destroying any alternative to the corporate system, because they want everybody in there, no exceptions. And you know, the last time I saw a doctor, I passed him in the bloody street. All right, how you doing? And walked on. And you know, I go to a guy called Mike Lambert at the Shen Clinic on the Isle of Wight. Freaking genius when it comes to healing. And you know, I feel bloody great, me. Absolutely great. And I don't take their sodding drugs. Anybody wants to have a word with a bloody healing genius, Shen Clinic, Isle of Wight, right. Thoroughly recommended. Now, the Fabian Society was actually named after a Roman general called Fabius, and his claim to fame was never having battles with the enemy that could prove decisive either way. His method of taking over was to weaken and weaken and weaken the enemy over a period of time, and then when they were so weak to resist, then move in. That is precisely what the system is doing. It's making us weaker and weaker, well, people that go with it at the moment, weaker and weaker by the food we eat, the water we drink, by the electromagnetic fields that we come into, by economic suppression and manipulation. All these things are being done to weaken and weaken and weaken the target population, Fabius style, so eventually they think they can just walk in when we're too weak to resist. That's the bloody idea. Physical control. I'll get through this pretty quick. Physical control, okay, major aspect of physical control. Take over the countries. This is not a map, it's a wish list. It's a wish list of countries in North Africa, the Middle East and the Near East, which they are picking off one after the other. Libya, now they're into Syria, they're starting trouble in Lebanon, they're in Iraq, they're in Afghanistan, of course they want Iran. And what they're doing is they're finding different excuses to pick off different countries, because they have to find different excuses, or people might think that there's a pattern here. This is what Libya looked like in 2007, this is what the same street looks like in 2011. This is Libya. Hey, you are free. And this is what happens when you pepper bomb cities to protect civilians from violence. What happened? I got no brief for bloody Gaddafi and all that stuff, but that's not the point. What happened was that they've got this system where they want to target someone. So what they do is they fund and train rebels covertly, and they bloody arm them. And then they get the rebels to start shooting at government targets. Political response, media response. Then the governments start shooting back at the rebels. Political response, they're shooting and killing their own people. Media response, the same. Oh, we've got to send people in, humanitarian, and in come the de facto bloody world army, NATO, dropping bombs everywhere. And now they're doing the same in bloody Syria. Not a Syrian civil war, it's a mercenary bloody war. That's what that is. You know, NATO bloody weapons here in the boxes for them. And this neocon organisation, the Project for the New American Century, it was behind the Bush administration, and in September 2000, before the Bush administration came in, it produced a document which called for the incoming Bush administration and America to fight, quote, multiple theatres of war in places like Libya and Syria and all these countries. But it said in the document, in September 2000, but this process of transformation, this takeover of country after country, was likely to be a long one, absent some catastrophic and catalyzing event like a new Pearl Harbor. 1 year to the month after that document was published, 9 months after the same people came to power in the Bush administration, the United States had what Bush called our Pearl Harbor, and as a result, they justified the targeting of all the countries that were in that document. This is a man called General Wesley Clark, and he said this in a television interview. This is not God's gift of peace either. He led the NATO attacks in the former Yugoslavia. But he said in a television interview in 2007 that immediately after 9/11, he was told that a coup was being plotted by Dick Cheney, Vice President then, Don Rumsfeld, Defense Secretary, Paul Wolfowitz, Defense Secretary Deputy, and what he called a half a dozen other collaborators from the Project for the New American Century that included an invasion of Iraq. 6 weeks later, he said, he was back with the guy, and he saw the same officer, and he said, "Why haven't we attacked Iraq? Are we still going to attack Iraq?" And this officer said to him, this is again, after 9/11, 6 weeks, "Sir, it's worse than that." The officer pulled up a piece of paper off his desk and said, "I just got this memo from the Secretary of Defense's office. It says we're going to attack and destroy the governments in 7 countries in 5 years. We're going to start with Iraq, and then we're going to move to Syria, Lebanon, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, and Iran." And Clark said the aim of the plot was they wanted us to destabilize the Middle East, turn it upside down, and make it under our control. And that is the agenda that's been followed, and all these excuses to pick off country over country are just that, bloody excuses. And, of course, one of the things they want is to get to the China and Russian border. They want a third world war with China and Russia. It's been in their documents for ages. And so what we're seeing are these people going through the Middle East using different excuses to pick off their target countries. America stands for freedom. We want to protect Brazilians. We only care about peace. Only kidding. She's Hillary speaking. No, I just love it. Ooh, yes, I love it. Syria next, kill them. Oh, I love it. There you are, that's bloody NATO. There you go, I like that. So we look at Iran. And this is how many wars they have instigated or fought since the Second World War. Actually, that's how many they've instigated for about 200 bloody years. This is how many the USA has fought with Britain in tag most of the bloody time since the Second World War. These are American bases around Iran. Who's threatening who, one wonders? Iranians are just the same as you and me. People that just want to get on with their lives and their families and all the rest of it. But let's demonize them. Let's demonize them and let's bomb them. Why? We have no heart. We love death. These bloody pillocks doing all this stuff. Violent extremists. Yeah, look in the bloody mirror. Look at them. Talk about inversion. The bloody terrorists fighting terrorism. I love it. War is peace, slavery is freedom, ignorance is strength. What is that? Archontic inversion. It's all a bloody movie that we're coming through, and it's all leading up to World War III. I'm not going to go into this in bloody detail because of time, but Rothschild Zionism, which is actually not about Jewish people, it's about a secret society created and instigated and controlled by the Rothschilds, that the Jewish people have used as a bloody front to cover the real thing about Rothschild Zionism, which is it's a bloody secret society and part of the cabal. But the Rothschilds, you know, named after Saturn and all this stuff, they built the Knesset, they built the Supreme Court building, and what they do is that anyone that challenges the Rothschilds and Rothschild Zionism and its agenda, they are called anti-Semitic and all this stuff. As this lady says, anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism, and even bloody Orthodox Jewish rabbis are saying the bloody same. You don't have to be a Jewish to be a Zionist. That's what Joe Biden said. Absolutely you don't. Most bloody great, you know, Zionists in America are Christian bloody Zionists, believe in bloody Armageddon. And you get Orthodox Jews that absolutely oppose Zionism. You know, another Jew against Zionism. I'm Jewish and I want Israel to stop killing Palestinians. Jews against the occupation. These are wonderful Jewish young people that refuse... These are wonderful Jewish young people who refuse to serve in the military and do this to Palestinian bloody kids. That's what we need. How many people know that this is going on between Jewish people and Ahmadinejad? Eh? How many people know this is going on? This is the dynamic between a country of 300 plus million and one of less than 8 million. Why? Because the Rothschilds are the controllers of Israel and they're controllers of the USA, and they're different hands on the same bloody body. And it's all this money that's handed by America to Israel. It ain't going to the rank and file Israelis. This is 400,000 people on the streets of Israel last year because of their economic situation. 2 people at least have set fire to themselves in bloody protest. And what we bloody need so much is for the people of Israel who are being suppressed by their bloody hierarchy come together in common cause with Palestinians and Americans and British and Australians and Africans who are being suppressed by their hierarchy. And realise that all those hierarchies are the same frickin' hierarchy. Let's come together. It's their worst bloody nightmare. This is why America and Israel work as one unit. They're both controlled by the same bloody lot. This is why he won't say a word, or any other president, when this mayhem and slaughter is going on. What's happening in Palestine is frickin' genocide. No other word for it. Genocide, the systematic and widespread extermination or attempted extermination of an entire national, racial, religious or ethnic group. This is Rothschild Zionism, this is Rothschild Zionism, so is bloody this. All the time, Palestinian homes, often for generations, bulldozed to make way for these bloody fanatics and these bloody crazies in the military and government. Yeah, we're going to build a wall. We're going to take the land. No one's going to say anything. This is bloody Israel, controlled by the Rothschilds. No one says no to the Rothschilds. They know the consequences. Hey, Palestinian children's playground. We want it for our war. Genocide. Bloody genocide. This is Palestinian land, the green, in 1946, 1947, 1967. Today, genocide, the systematic and widespread extermination or attempted extermination of an entire national, racial, religious or ethnic group. This is going on before our eyes. We'd never let it happen again. We're watching it happen again. The bloody Zion, bloody Olympics, New bloody Jerusalem, Zion. This is not even about Jewish people and the benefits. They were hung out to dry in bloody Germany. They'll be hung out to dry again whenever it suits these people. That's the bloody thing. The elephant in the living room. And people are terrified of talking about it because all the Anti-Defamation League and these Rothschild fronts jump on you. Anti-Semite, racist. They've tried it with me. But when you're saying we're all infinite awareness, having an experience, and the genetic spacesuit is fucking irrelevant, well, it's very difficult to make it stick. And even if it does, I don't bloody give a shit. So, we have this, and we have this, and yet we must be scared of Iran. Personally, I think it's more likely we should be scared of America and Britain, myself. Rothschild Zionism want to take us, the Rothschilds want to take us into the Third World War. I've been saying this for years. And of course, Armageddon is supposed to come out of the Middle East. Third World War, it's all about death. These were invariant, all of them were Rothschild Zionists in the Project for the New American Century that orchestrated all this country after country takeover. But this guy, Albert Pike, was a high Freemason in America. And he wrote a letter, it said, some would say it's a forgery or a fake. Well, my God, I tell you what, these fakes and forgeries don't half tell a bloody tale with the hindsight of history. That's actually turned out to be true. Albert Pike, letter to Giuseppe Mazzini in 1871, he talked about 3 world wars coming, so that and each one would go towards eventually taking over the world. And he talked about the First World War and the Second World War and how the Second World War would create a homeland for what he called political Zionism. And then he said this about the Third World War. The Third World War must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agentur of the Illuminati, the network, the bloodlines, between the political Zionists, Israel in other words, and leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the State of Israel, because they knew that was coming even then, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, note that, mutually destroy each other. Are you listening, people of Israel? Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on this issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral and spiritual and economical exhaustion. And then he was pointing out that then they would move in and say, we can save everything, but you have to do what we say and they have to do it the way we say it. And if it becomes a nuclear war, then changing the atmosphere is another bonus. Very quickly, physical control too. This is the police state. This is the world of Agenda 21 that they want to bring in if we bleed and allow it, and we shouldn't. I mean, in terms of numbers, I mean, crikey, it's a no contest. Divide and rule stops us doing it. And we've reached to this point in physical control where he has a kill list, which people are then killed without trial or a judicial process or anything. He can, murder people in effect without recourse. You may have seen, and I've seen it all over the world, how the nature of police has changed. I call it recruiting the crazies. What they've been doing for decades now is recruiting law enforcement all around the world, Britain as well, not on the basis of whether they can do the job for the benefit of the community, as they used to do, many of them do, and many of them still try to do it within a system that's a nightmare for them trying. You know, so many decent policemen are leaving, police officers are leaving, because they can't stand the fucking system that's coming in because the crazies are taking it over. And what they've been doing is recruiting on the basis of personality type rather than ability to do the job. And the personality types they want are narcissists, a psychological condition characterized by preoccupation, lack of empathy, and unconditional deficits in self-esteem, and psychopaths, a person with an antisocial personality disorder, manifested in aggressive, perverted, criminal or immoral behavior, and this is the common theme, without empathy or remorse. And that's why you're seeing the change in personality so dramatically in law enforcement around the world. And we get in a situation, this guy, Brandon Raub, all he did was write on his, I think it was his Twitter or one of these social networks, Facebook or whatever, about, you know, certain things about the New World Order and 9/11 he didn't like, gets picked up and taken away to a psychiatric hospital. And he would probably still be there if there wasn't this massive public outcry and help from a civil rights organisation that sorted him out. Here you go, committing war crimes, happily retired, committing war crimes, wins Peace Prize, exposing war crimes, considered terrorist. And we're seeing all this stuff coming in, and all the bloody drones in the sky, and all this stuff around in space, and hijacking the internet, and the microchipping agenda that's coming in, stepping stone style with the electronic tattoo, as they call it, and stuff, and using barcodes for babies instead of names. And I love this one. You take a bloody tablet, and it's got a microchip in it. Stage 1, patient takes pill and has been modified to contain edible microchip. 2, after pill is swallowed, chip is activated by stomach fluids, sending signal on patch to arm. 4, receiver transmits information to mobile, telling patient when next dose is due and provides other health data. What? But you know what the agenda is? The agenda is that people will be drugged, and they will be technologically monitored. We're looking a little bit further in the future now, but this is the agenda. They will be electronically or technologically monitored to make sure they have the drug, and that is the brave new world of suppression by medication. One quick thing before we move on. I'm just about on time. Transhumanism. That transhumanism is so-called enhancing the human form with technology. Or you can be a Superman. Well, what is this archontic force? This archontic force is a cyborg force. It is a robotic force. It doesn't have creative imagination and stuff like we humans have. And what they want to do, just as they're destroying the planet's organic nature, is they want to turn us into them and destroy our creative abilities and to turn us into cyborgs. That's what transhumanism is all about. And so all these different things go into the same thing. Shit Creek, this has been the paddle stores. And just very quickly, what people have been listening to today in their various places around the world has taken the subliminal into the conscious. And that means that anyone listening to this will be far more difficult to manipulate and scam after this point, because what has been subliminal has come into the conscious mind. I'll give you a quick example. Some people might have seen this, because it's not, it's around quite a bit. But if you haven't seen it, there are subliminals, very clear subliminals, if you know where they are, in these two pictures. And most people who've not seen them before will not be able to see them, about 95%. Well, for those who can't see them, that says sex there, and that says sex there. Now I've pointed out where they are. I've taken the subliminal into the conscious mind. From now on, every time you see that picture, the subliminal you couldn't see before will be the first thing you see. And that's what happens when you bring this information to the surface about what's going on. The language of symbols. So, and for people that haven't seen those pictures before, there you go. First thing you see. Conscious mind. This is why getting this information to the surface is so important. So, very quickly, the idea that all that I've talked about in this section alone is being orchestrated by men and women in dark suits around a table is ludicrous. That's just the play-out level. It's much deeper in the rabbit hole. We have to believe we have no power. We have to forget that we are infinite consciousness having an experience, so we become one of them. And, I'll say this finally in this section to people who think that you can escape from it by being spiritual and eating organic food and meditating and all that. Not knocking any of that. Be my guest. But this is what happened to people in China that were doing that, the Falun Gong people. They don't want people to wake up. They don't want people to go into other levels of reality and realize what's bloody going on. So they have been horrifically attacked, abused, and slaughtered and tortured as a result of simply wanting to be what we would call the basic New Age type of life. And so I say to New Agers and people like that who say, oh, it's negative. Listen, turn round and face it now, while we're still in a situation we can turn this around, or face it then. That's your choice. So, where do we go from here? We bloody awaken. And that's where we're going next in 30 minutes. Thank you very much.
This final break is for 30 minutes. Please grab some refreshments and make it back to your seats in plenty of time for the final part of the show. And bring your voices with you. This is also your opportunity to buy the DVD David Icke, Return to Peru. Please note this is new and currently only available to purchase exclusively at Wembley Arena. You may find this DVD in the upstairs foyer now, and it will also be available for a short time after the show has finished. Thank you.